We'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, we have more conversations. Stay with us.
Largely complicit in what has happened to us. You can help us. Yes, you can. America can be a true friend to progressive forces in Nigeria, but not by coming in with your guns blazing. We don't need you coming into our country guns blazing. Just stand by the truth and insist on the right things being done. Now you have discovered the cherished Christians in Nigeria. Where were these cherished Christians in 2014, 2015? When the Obama regime, whether you like it or not, at the end of the day, was the American government. When the Abuja and when the Obama regime was busy helping to install the APC government, which brought in the reign of Islamists and the attendant security challenges that we are facing today, that have been killing these same cherished Christians in droves for over a decade. What has America been doing about it, and what did America ever say? So I'm happy that all of a sudden America remembers that there are cherished Christians in Nigeria, but there are also cherished Muslims. There are cherished Shia Christians, Shia Muslims, who have been slaughtered in hundreds without America saying a word for years. So yeah, I agree with you in total. The Nigerian government had better move fast, because if it doesn't move fast, this country will be gone, whether America comes in gun blazing or not. And that is as far as it concerns the Americans.
And that's a clip there showing Dele Farotimi speaking about the recent situation Nigeria is faced with, which is the USA invasion. But joining us now live in the studios, we do have a security expert, the CEO of PR24 Nigeria, Oyenkachi Adekoya, is here with us live. Thank you so much for being here as we look into this conversation once again. We also have joining us from the international scene, talking about the United States of America. We have Texas. Yes, from Texas, Houston, Texas. We do have Mr. Ejike Okpa, who also joins us here. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. But let me make it clear. I am in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, Dallas, Texas.
Better than Houston. So we're still in Texas, but I'm in Dallas.
Okay. Wow. I knew you were going to go there, though, but it's fine. Thanks for joining us, by the way. But this is a serious conversation I want to have, so I'm just going to I'm going to pass the baton to Benga, so Benga can.
Okay, I'd like to state, our guest in the studio, he's operating with Nigerian time, so we probably woke up at the same time, but you're far behind in Texas, so we'll do you the honors and throw the first salvo to you. Mr. Ejike Okpa, you're a member of the Republican Party, and you've been for quite some time. How do you take this declaration of Nigeria being declared as a country of particular concern by the government of Donald Trump?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Nigeria has always been a concern for our American government. If you remember when Obasanjo was there was a forecast or prediction that in 15 years or so, Nigeria was going to become a failed state. And somehow Nigeria has managed to keep standing. But Trump making the statement about the killing of Christians, has gotten everybody, attention and somehow maybe creating some nervous reactions from whomever, either in Aso Rock or those around President Tinubu. The point is that every American president says the agenda or the tone for foreign relations. I think one of the earlier guests said something about 2014 and how during Obama, things were happening. I can't speak for Obama, just like, during Clinton, you have the genocide in Rwanda. So every president says the tone, every president picks, something of interest. I think what we need to do now, or what Nigeria needs to do, is to look at, okay, is this something that, is a national security? Obviously, it's a national security. I was in Nigeria. I just came back from Nigeria 2 days ago. You could see the public concern about safety, about moving around. America doesn't need to remind whomever is the president of Nigeria about that. Nigeria has to accept where they are in terms of being able to, protect their citizens. I don't even think that any government since 1919 has passed a law, anti-religious law, that if you kill a Nigerian because of a religious belief, Muslim, whatever, you have to be prosecuted with the full might of the federal government. I don't think that law exists. What is happening when things happen, they sweep it under the rug and they blame. So if Tinubu, I think here's an opportunity for him to go in there and sponsor a legislation about anti-killing in Nigeria. It doesn't matter who watched the provocation, he kills somebody because they are Muslim or Christian or something else, you're going to be prosecuted. And then Nigeria should start gathering data. Every year you publish people that have been killed because of religious belief, so that Nigerians can become owners of their own public safety and be very conscious of it. You don't have to love everybody, but you have to tolerate people. We all don't have to belong to one religious, belief system. Nigeria, during the military people, they have pushed Nigeria as an Islamic country. Nigeria is not an Islamic country. If the Muslims, for whatever, by default, think that Nigeria belongs to them, then the Nigerians that are not Muslims have to let them know that. And that's how you claim ownership. If you can't run away from the country that God has given you, you just have to make it work for you.
Well, we had Mr. Temitope Ajayi earlier this morning, and I did ask him the question about data, and he says the data is available if we need to ask. But it would seem that President Donald Trump does not seem to believe this data. Let's bring in the conversation here back to the studio, Mr. Oyenkachi Adekoya. Let's get your thoughts on the potential. We've seen different reactions, those who are in support of the U.S. potentially invading Nigeria sharply and sweetly. What side of the divide are you on?
Okay, this is some comic relief coming from the President of the United States, who I believe has domestic political pressure that he's dealing with. And if you follow the trajectory of Trump's conversation, he has a way of throwing his base a bone every now and then, just to distract from their own issues that they have. The government is nearing a 40-day shutdown. About over 1 million people will be off for food. About 40 million Americans will be off of food stamps anytime now. So if Trump being Trump, I guess he wants to suck the attention out of the media space in the U.S. off domestic political issue and then focus on foreign policy, where he seems to be making some leverage. Remember that he's gone from a tour, going from Canada to Europe, to Asia. Now it makes sense that he has time now to focus on Africa. And where best do you start from, if not from the most populous black African countries? So for me, this is local issues becoming, taking a slant into geopolitical issues. And it's a bit of a comedy.
You think it's a bit of a comedy,
Yeah.
But looking at the Trump administration and his unorthodox diplomacy and his way of conducting business, others will say, this is serious. Because the level of conversations that are happening on Nigeria's social media could threaten our foundations, our unity. And also, looking at his president, what people might say, oh, we have the UN Charter, is going to respect this, he will respect that. Looking at what his allies, Israel, have done in bombing Qatar and a few countries with no consequences, and looking at what he's currently doing in Venezuela without providing evidence. The United States, the United Nations has called it gross human rights violations, extrajudicially killing people in the name of fighting drugs. Why would you think it's not a possibility that he would carry out some military action in Nigeria?
That's what I'm saying. The joke is on the Americans, really. And this is very laughable. If you follow the data, the guest in Dallas is explaining that, the data is that over 12,000 Americans have been killed year to date on gun violence alone in the U.S. Over 23,000 Americans have suffered gun-related injuries this year alone. When he says that there's genocide, since the Amnesty International reports that year till date, about 10,000 Nigerians have been killed, not yet to date, since this administration came into power. I mean, I'm not saying that, you know, the lives don't matter.
Excuse, yeah.
But I'm saying Trump has bigger fishes to fry than all these things. When you look at the issues, these issues are geopolitical issues. He's threatening military action against the Nigerian state on the basis of Christian genocide. Is one, he's trying to speak to a base he thinks he has in Nigeria, the evangelicals and the Christian base. So he's supposing that we will put religion over our loyalty to our country, Nigeria. And he's misreading the room. Because, yes, Christians are Christians, but we've seen Libya, we've seen what happened in Libya, we've seen what happened in Syria,
in Gaza.
We've seen what happened in Mali. I'm even just saying, we've seen, you can see the trajectory. It's when you say Christian genocide, you are trying to legitimize a geopolitical pressure that America is feeling for which it has to act. What are the real issues on the ground? Nigeria and West Africa is emerging to becoming a major energy and rare earth mineral hub. Even in West Africa, China, the Russo-China alliance is making a lot of inroads into this part of the continent.
Especially after they kicked out the French from the Sahel.
Of course, the French has completely lost out. Look at West Africa to Central Africa. The Russians are holding pretty much that belt. They can supply military capability. The Chinese can come in, provide funding, infrastructure. Where does that leave the West? Hanging. Now, Nigeria is about just the major power bloc in Africa where the West seems to have a bit of some leverage. You've seen the president go to Brazil, the vice president go to Russia. You've seen the direct currency swap, China-Nigeria currency swap. You've seen Nigeria trade its crude in Naira, and you've seen the positive impact on the economy. You've seen us turn a corner.
All right.
Again, let me just.
Okay, let's hold there. I'm sure that Mr. Ejike Okpa has reactions to that, but we're going to break. When we come back from the break, we'll still be looking at this story. Please stay with us.
I charge you, as the head of our nation's armed forces, to carry out your duties with patriotic zeal Nigerians expect result and not excuses. We are in a hurry to celebrate peace. I charge you also to be innovative, preemptive, and courageous. Let's stay ahead of those who seek to threaten our peace, freedom, and stability. Let us deploy technology where necessary. We cannot allow the crisis that began in year 2009 to persist any longer. It is time to defeat the enemies. I wish you the best. I advise you to work together as a team. Compare notes, exchange your information effectively and follow up proactively. Work with other security agencies and defeat this enemy once and for all. We need to clean them up, clear them out. I promise to provide all support you need to get the job done.
Speech there, he said we need to clear them out and we need to ensure that we stop all of the terrorism that's been seen. We do have in the studio with us a security expert and also a global affairs analyst. Let me go straight to Mr. Ejike, who's on video conferencing. You just saw that video. This took place days after Donald Trump did make that declaration about an invasion, a possible invasion on Nigerian soil. Do you think the U.S.'s statement is politically motivated?
No, it could be any of those. Trump is a political figure. But let me, address some of the comments made by Mr. Oyenkachi. Look, Nigeria could go and be in the hands of Russia or China and whomever else they choose to. America is not going to lose a sleep over it. There's nothing about the Nigerian economy, that America is going to wake up tomorrow and say, oh my God, we've lost a critical partner. The point is that every nation has to stand up on its own merit. You're talking about, the challenges in America. Yes, we have the challenges, but people are not on the street looking for food. Okay, so the point here is, how is the economy of Nigeria doing? When Tinubu got in there, the exchange rate of the naira to the dollar was 450. Today is about 1,000 something. You have to address that. Americans are not concerned about that. If Trump made a statement and is getting the American Nigerians' attention, then turn it into something positive for you or ignore it. America is not sending a boots on the ground anytime soon. I think all this, gallivanting and dangling and looking for something and saying Trump this, Trump is that. At the end of the day, it's about the people that live in a place. How do they feel? How do Nigerians feel living in their country is what matters. Not what the Russians think of it or the China or Americans or anybody. It's about the Nigerians. So if the killings are in Nigeria, one is more than enough. If are people killing people because of religious, belief, yes, we have gun violence in Nigeria, but I bet you most Nigerians will jump to America if they have the ability to come. Not everybody, most will jump. But the point I need to make here is, let this be something that President Tinubu is going to take up as a challenge and talk to Nigerians and say, yes, we have challenges. This is what we are doing. Let every Nigerian begin to feel like they are a security expert. See something, talk about something. Because before somebody comes in to bomb your place and kill you, we don't have people killing people in America because of religious something, even if we do that. But we have a law. We have a lot of, anti-racism law. So does Nigeria have anti-tribal law? Does Nigeria have anti-religious law? That's what needs to happen, not what Mr. Lukoya, or what is his name, Oyenkachi is talking about. Be realistic and stop thinking that America, I'm a Nigerian. Okay, I came here 30-something years ago. I'm probably not going to be coming back to that country, but I will visit. The point is, how do we harmonize relationship with people who are going to say, hey, this is what we can do in order to advance Nigeria. When I left Nigeria, my ticket was 768 naira 50 kobo to buy my ticket from Lagos to London to Dallas. Can that buy you a bottle of beer today? That's what Nigerians need to be talking about. What has happened to the naira? What has happened to the economy? Where you have people who are college educated doing Uber, doing all kinds of things. But the point again is, I am not speaking for Trump. American soldiers are not invading Nigeria anytime soon. If he says it and Nigerians are being afraid and throwing all kinds of, remember, every politics is local. No matter how the international thing is, you still have to go home and deal with, do you have water in your house? Can you walk around in your neighborhood? If you're getting employed, are you getting paid? Those are the measures and not what, Nigerians think, about whether Trump can do it or Trump can do it. Take ownership of your country and show that you are the most populous black nation in the world. You have more universities and more educated people than anybody in the world. But, you say you are a smart country. Smart people run a smart country. That's what the world will respect, and not this other stuff that is more about feeble distraction.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ejike Okpa. Oyenkachi, Mr. Okpa mentioned something quite instructive. He says, looking at this moment in our history and everything that has happened in the last 48 hours, how do we turn it into something positive? If you could advise the Nigerian government on the way forward from this diplomatic spat between the United States and Nigeria, what would it be, and how can we turn this moment to something positive?
I'm quite enjoying this morning's conversation, surprisingly, very much. I'd like to speak to data. I'll come to Nigeria. The U.S. is a failed economy by any standard. I hope Mr. Ejike is aware that the Bretton Woods Agreement of 1945 is what has staged the U.S. to what it is. But today, the U.S. is almost $37 trillion in debt. There is no country on the face of the earth that will hold that amount of money and will still be in existence. If he doesn't understand the issues, the dollar is under threat. the dollar retaining its standing as the global reserve currency is under significant threat, and its portfolio holding in terms of the foreign basket is dropping every year. So while the Americans, I agree with Mr. Ejike, I've been in Dallas a couple of times, and there are poor people in Dallas. There are drug addicts in the city center in Dallas. It talks about people doing Uber. The last time I was in Dallas, a lady took me in Uber. She has four houses just doing Uber. So there's dignity in labor. There are socio-economic issues everywhere. And a lizard in Nigeria will not become an alligator abroad. There are issues in Nigeria as they are abroad. America has even bigger issues than Nigeria. Some are projecting that by 2030, the American economy will collapse completely. What is the whole essence of the government shutdown? The U.S. has consistently overspent what it can really generate. So Donald Trump is on the edge. He sees the issues which perhaps the Democrats may not have appreciated, and is trying to address that. That's why I'm saying that the claim of Christian genocide is a move to legitimize a pressure campaign on the Nigerian government to pursue America's interests. Those are the issues. You know, we're not saying that there are no killings in Nigeria.
What sort of America's interest in Nigeria? Okay,
good. Very, very important question. Let's even start. Why is America wanting to build its largest embassy anywhere in the world in Lagos, facing the Eco-Atlantic? Let's start with that. America is in a spat on rare earths with China, and they have achieved a 1-year relief, as it were. Now, America has to look at a supply chain and also reinforce that supply chain to support its own projection. West Africa is emerging as a major rare earth hub. What's the war in Ukraine about? It's also American interest. The Donbass and the eastern part of
expansion of NATO
of Ukraine has the bulk of rare earths. Nigeria has over $83 trillion worth of proven gas reserve. And we're putting out almost 2 million barrels of oil every day. America wants to control the global energy supply chain. Remember, America's policy at the time was energy independence. Now they've moved to strategic positioning of energy dominance. And who is America trying to contain? China. If you can contain China in Europe, in Western Asia, in Africa. So this whole thing is clearly a great power politics. We are back now to the Cold War era, where the machinations of certain statements by great powers was influenced by countering the balance of each other's opponents in their own sphere of influence. Now, the other thing is that America is no longer the single global hegemony it used to be, because even the Western Hemisphere is now being contested. Why is it positioning vessels
Venezuela, off the coast of Venezuela?
Off the coast of Venezuela? Because the place is now a contested space, trying to counter Chinese and Russo influence in that axis. So if we had enough time, I would have loved to debate even people with...
but you still not answered my question. The positives coming out of this.
This is all comedy. The positive is that I've said to the president, and I want to be on record, I forget about the joke that is coming from the White House. By the way, I like the person handling the White House Twitter handle. The person is on some very good stuff. I've said to the president that, Mr. President, you will fail as your other predecessors have failed if you continue to hold on to the assumption that internal security is your primary responsibility. We must dissolve power back to the governors and hold the governors responsible. We must have state police and have the military as the last line, so that they can act as a force multiplier to the military. If the president does not devolve powers, these issues will continue. So this thing by Donald Trump is nothing. He wants to negotiate. He's been negotiating with the Tinubu administration for the last 2 years, going on 3 years. So this is a pressure campaign to improve their negotiating position. In any case, they will be having those negotiations come Tuesday. And my point is, if you want to continue to retain patronage and relevance in Nigeria, sell weapons to Nigeria. We can't be having this issue of laying law, You know, one hand you are tying the Nigerian government,
And
the
then
other hand
you're giving Israel everything they
you know.
want.
So even Ukraine, is it Ukraine that doesn't have human rights violation, or Qatar, or Saudi Arabia, or even the other people that America sells weapons to? So if the interests were aligned, Nigeria is a non-aligning state. And Tinubu has said on record, I'm not speaking for the government, if China brings the investment, we'll collect the money. If India brings the money, we'll collect the money. If America wants to bring the money, happy and fine. We're all good. We're all good for business. Please. This.
Okay. Let's also ask Mr. Ejike Okpa, let's bring him in and get your thoughts on what the expectations are regarding the meeting with the President of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who's on his way to meet with the Vice President, J.D. Vance.
One of these meetings, when they happen, after then you hear what is said. You know, the point again, like I said, every country needs to own its own country and then act like it. You know, whatever Mr. Oyenkachi was saying. Like I said, the next time you're in Dallas, come, let me show you a $240 million project that I'm doing, the first black man to build a 25-story building in the history of America. So the point I'm saying here, if Nigerians are happy with Nigeria, deal with Nigeria. You know, that's what it is. Yeah, nobody's going to force you to leave, whether you go on vacation or you want to migrate. That is a choice the individuals make. But the fundamentals of the economy has to be relevant to the population of the country. You know, if you say that, you know, an Uber driver in America is the same, whatever the case may be, the point is that if you graduate in Nigeria, what is the assimilation? What is the absorption rate of Nigerian graduates to the field of study? Because that's where you build the skill. You have a lot of default people doing things in Nigeria because they couldn't find a job in the thing they studied. So that is neither here nor there. Tinubu has a choice to make. He can ignore Trump. And then if, for whatever reason, American soldiers are in the country, then the Nigerian Defense Forces were going to take on that challenge. But like I said earlier, it's not going to happen. What this statement of Trump has been is to get Nigeria to look at what it is that matters to them. Tinubu is the man for Nigeria. However he deals with Nigerian politics is up to him. There are only 37 people that are important in Nigeria, the president and 36 governors. He's talking about the police. I'm a graduate of the Dallas Police Citizens Academy as well as the FBI. I can talk about the police all day long, more than Mr. Oyenkachi can talk about. I can talk about the economy. He's talking about debt and deficit. He obviously doesn't know the difference between deficit and debt. America, yes, is a deficit country, but it's not a debt country. Nigeria is a debt country because Nigerian currency is not able to be stabilized to deal with the debt. That is why they are constantly chasing World Bank and everybody to borrow money from. So when you understand that, let's have a conversation. My point is, I want to see a successful Nigeria. I want to see a Nigeria that builds a relationship with any country of the world they want. That's their own choice. But you're not going to come in and do a comparison about a country that most Nigerians today, if you give them opportunity, they will flee Nigeria.
Okay.
That is the test. So my point again is like, this conversation is good. I hope by next week, you know, when President Tinubu comes to Washington, D.C. and meets whomever he's going to meet, there's something that he's going to take back home and then run the country. It's Nigerians claim to be smart people, show us a smart country. You're talking about oil independence or energy independence. Texas produces about 5-point-something million barrels of oil a day, more than Nigeria of 200 and something million people do. So don't go into an area that obviously when you get into it, you're going to find out that you're not putting out anything there that will make Nigeria better. Electricity came to Nigeria 14 years after America built their first power plant. 1896, 129 years later. Nigeria, a country of 200 and something million, cannot even produce 5 to address that issue. Don't look at China. You have Nigerian engineers. Can you build a Nigerian economy on Naira? Look at that. Interest rate that they are charging Nigerians is 30-40%. How can anybody survive on that? Address that with the National Assembly, pass a usury law that say you cannot charge certain interest rate. But they don't do it. It's constantly going out and making things harder. Again, tell me, when Obasanjo became president, if you had 1 million naira, it was $12,000. 26 years, into democracy. If democracy is a panacea for economic development, Nigeria should be heading in the other direction. But he hasn't addressed that. You don't talk about America. I borrowed money, I bought my home 30 years ago on a fixed interest rate. Can you get a fixed rate interest mortgage in Nigeria for 30 years? You can't. So these are the fundamentals. It's not all this lousy comparison, Nigeria this. But Mr. Oyenkachi, next time you come to Dallas, come with me. I have lived in the same zip code as an immigrant since 1987. I have record of what I have done in America. It can be done anywhere, but it's done through leadership. It's done through commitment, will, and not wish.
All right. Let's come
Nigerians
back
are wishful, they are not committed. They don't have the will to change their country.
Well, we're almost out of time. I want Mr. Oyenkachi to respond, but if you can't do this in 2 minutes, we'll appreciate that. And while you're speaking, you can't deny the fact that I'm sure you've seen the responses on social media. I hear your position, but there are people who are leaning more towards excitement, stating that they feel like this is the solution to Nigeria's insecurity challenges.
Or a wake-up call.
Yes, or a wake-up call for the government that's put the government on its toes. So let's get your thoughts on does this do anything to Nigeria's image internationally?
No, so remember that Nigerians are very happy people, and we express a lot of excitement on social media. And sometimes we don't take ourselves too seriously, let alone taking the American president as seriously as he hopes. This is two-pronged, really. It's an influence operation. Remember that when this year started, or take 2 years back, the American embassy in Nigeria started a campaign.
Tuesday. Accountability Tuesdays.
So they started a campaign, to talk about the reforms, why it will not work, why it will not succeed. They flew a kite of a bomb threat in Kano. It went on. Next thing we saw, it was the ethnic genocide. Remember that we had visa restriction to 3 years, 10% tariff slapped on, and then the U.S. Republican came up with the genocide kite. And then followed up was Trump announcement of an invasion, and then the Secretary of War. So if you follow the trend, there is clearly something the Americans are upset about that they want leverage on, and that's what they're talking about.
Well, could it be because we didn't accept deportees?
No, there are a number of issues
beyond the Vice President's United Nations.
No, there are a number of issues. There are issues we don't talk about on national TV. And to say to my fellow Nigerian,
okay,
to Mr. Ejike, I'm an economist by training. And that's my first degree. I employ over 2,000 Nigerians in this country. And I made a success of myself in Nigeria. I didn't have to migrate to the U.S. I visit the U.S. at my own volition, if I so please. So that's an issue for another day. I'm saying that the conversations are geopolitical in nature. They are beyond this. Mr. Ejike is a Republican. I supported the Republican Party for the election because under Joe Biden, the U.S. was completely off. So I understand why Trump is doing what he's doing. He needs to retilt the American economy from its incipient implosion, because the American economy will fail, and Trump gets it. If you remove the US dollar as global reserve currency, there is nothing America has tomorrow. So there's an influence campaign across the world. That's why it's having the spat with Canada, with Europe, with NATO allies, with just about everybody. Right. So there are issues beyond comparison that is deep-seated that America has to resolve.
Unfortunately, we have to go now. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We want the best for Nigeria, and we want a great relationship between Nigeria and the United States of America. We'll wait for the meeting on Tuesday and see how things turn out before we know what the next steps are.